Imposter syndrome can show up years after being in business. And I think after spending so much time realizing you needed to make a change, that the first thing that shows up is doubt. And that's what me and Jessica talk about in this episode of the Behind the Business Unfiltered podcast.
What did feeling stuck actually look like for you?
Overthinking everything, overthinking every decision that I was going to make moving forward. Just like in our last episode where we talked about the pivot, um, it was like, okay, I know that I'm ready to make this decision, but then we're getting to a place now where it's time to take action and it's just froze. Like, should I make this decision? Should I not? There were so many times where I was talking to my husband and he's just like, okay, wait a minute. Yesterday you said that you weren't going to do this. And then now today you said that you are. And then, and I could actually hear, this kind of hesitation just from him because he's constantly telling me, we're like pretty much telling me back how many times I kept changing my mind because I just felt like maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I don't think I'm capable. Maybe this isn't the right move, even though I knew that something was clearly off for me.
Yeah.
So do you think that being capable made it hard for you to specialize?
Oh, definitely. Definitely, because I feel like, when you're capable of doing so much and that kind of becomes the expectation that everybody else has, that your clients have for you, you have for yourself is, you become, that catch all, that junk drawer. Then it's harder to say, yes, I'm capable of all those things, but that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to specialize in this one thing. Right. And I think that when you're a people pleaser also, I think that makes it so much harder because you're like, of course you can do it, right? We can do a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that it's what you're supposed to be doing. And so I think that, it's hard to go from that, I can do all these things to I do this, right? Do you think that women undervalue strategic thinking because it's less visible?
Absolutely. 100%. And I think that that is what played into the imposter syndrome on my side. When it comes to the portion of like, okay, I'm going to take this next step forward. I'm going to transition my business over, for me specifically, consulting. What ended up happening was as I started to work on my pricing, it started to become a little bit difficult because now I am not, because that, especially as being a history of design and providing a product after doing a service, I am now charging for my thought process, the structure of building something and training teams on how to do the thing, right? And pricing that started to become difficult because when I started to look at the market, I started to see what these prices look like. They actually, well, some people would say would be like, "Oh, that's exciting. I would love to get paid that." For me, it was scary. It was scary. It was like, can I? Are they even going to pay that? Now these prices are getting to a point where they're substantial. But then at the same time, I am that person who is spending every waking moment thinking about how I'm going to handle this or what I'm going to say to the client or how I'm going to help them in their business, like as if it's my own. It's like my own baby, their business. And I am like taking so many hours, even before being paid, just to figure out how to make things work. And, so I could see where the pricing makes sense, but putting the two together, you know, that was one side. The other side was that when I was talking to some of my existing clients, they didn't see the value. So they would kind of understand, but because I was not charging that previously, what's this additional charge? Why does it cost so much? So that's when you have to get to that kind of confidence, that space to say, well, because this is what I'm providing you. But it's hard to do that when it's not tangible, right? It's like being like, hey, I built out this three additional landing pages that you asked for. So here's the price for this. But that's not what this is. This is like, we had a conversation, and it impacts your business, the structure of your business, trains your team, and then now I'm looking for invoice, and that is hard. It's easy, it's easier said than done.
I wanted to touch back on that real quick. My husband is he's definitely one of those very supportive in, my business and what I do and everything. And as I know your husband is the same with yours. And we're definitely blessed in that because not everybody has that support, already built in. But he's always saying, I don't know what exactly you do and how you make money with it because he is in that mindset and, a 9 to 5er, typical, 9 to 5 job. And he's like, I go and I do a service. He works on forklifts. He's a technician and it's like, I do this and I fix it. Right. And you can physically see that it's been fixed. It's driving around, whatever. And he was like, you do what? And I was like, well, I do the same thing. I fix things that are in people's businesses that are broken, or I organize, or, I provide a service that makes a difference for a person. But he still doesn't, because that's kind of his mind thought, it's, I don't, I don't know how you make money with it. Right. So I can see how that kind of, goes with your clients that are shifting from, I built this, you can see that I built this, but then here we had a conversation that is filled with so much value that you're going to now take and do something with that's going to make even more money. So then you have the double the value. And it's your time and the intelligence of yourself that you've invested in yourself and learning over time and everything. So, yeah.
Do you think that your identity shift was like way harder than like the business shift and transition when it came to like imposter syndrome?
We've already been in the business. We've had that. But we kind of have to bring the identity into reality, like kind of in the example of what we spoke on last episode was growing the older version of yourself, which naturally is uncomfortable because we
Hmm.
want to stay where we're comfortable and think that in what we know. And even though I was still doing all the OBM things, calling myself an OBM and saying and charging for that is like, it's scary.
Yeah.
And you start second guessing yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And that it brings up what I literally was just talking about. The uh in the Take Note community, we're talking about the attributes of God, and one of the ones that stood out was that God is immutable. And I feel like this really hits here because immutable meaning that he doesn't change. He does not change at all. And for some reason, us as, people, we think that we don't change. We feel like we get comfortable in a space and we don't want to because we're comfortable with that and we struggle and it's difficult to have that change in life, change in business. And while I was studying that, what really hit home for me was like how much he's created us to change. I mean, think about it. Since we were born, we have changed. Even up until now, we're
Mhm.
getting older, we're continuing the process of change because he's designed us that way. But we push against the grain, and which is interesting because like this imposter syndrome is literally like us forcefully not doing what God has naturally caused us to do, which is to change. Like it's comfortable for um that it's comforting to know that he does not change, right? But for us, change is natural. And in business, even more so as entrepreneurs, like forever changing in our business happening. We're literally trying to be like God and like, no. And there's comfort in that. He's like, no, it's time for you to change. It's uncomfortable because you're trying to stay somewhere that you're not supposed to be anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we find ourselves, constantly sitting back and waiting to be ready, right? But are we ever really ready? I feel like that's a procrastination moment, and we're holding ourselves back because we don't have that faith in that. And to be able to build that moment of just having the faith of knowing it's going to work out, right? Everything's going to work out. It may not go exactly how I want it to and how I see it, but it's going to go exactly the way that it needs to and the way that God wills it to, really. And um, once we make that move, we start feeling that release, right? Because we finally made the move that we are drawn to and that we're being guided to. Um, and then we feel the release of, okay, here we are. And then you start getting the confidence of like, I've got this, right? I'm going to bring it to very reality because every business owner has had to deal with technology, right? And I'm going to get right call us out with this episode here. We stopped the episode at the beginning, checked quality of the video, and you were like, yes, it looks great. This is the confidence I needed. Let's go. This is going to be a great episode, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of came in weary. And then it was like, once you saw that that was the good decision, that was, we're on the right track. It was like, we got this, we'll never
Yeah.
have to question that again. And so, yeah, I totally agree. The confidence comes after you've moved.
Yeah.
The longer that you sit and you wait for that confidence, you're like, oh, I'm just got to learn a little bit more. Oh, I'm not quite ready. I still don't know this, or this person knows more. Um, then you're never going to gain the confidence because it really it comes after you have the courage. Confidence comes after the courage.
I love
Boom. Yes. Yes.
post that somewhere. Confidence comes after the courage. Confidence comes
Yes.
after the courage. I love it.
And
I love that. I love that. I love that,
And
Struggle.
I'm going to take this and I'm going to roll it into our next topic where comparison is like the worst, right? And it really comes from the exposure of social media. I mean, social media is a great thing to stay connected, but as business owners, it is horrible for imposter syndrome because you start comparing yourself, right? And but do you feel like social media amplifies imposter syndrome?
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. We're talking about doom scrolling. And it's that moment where you've procrastinated for a very long time. And then you're like, you know what? Let me take a break. And now you're finding yourself on social media, whichever one you want to pick, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And because it knows you, you're going through and it's just showing all of like, this isn't you, this isn't you, this isn't you. Don't you wish that you could be that? Like, oh, you don't have that kind of confidence. Oh, you don't look like that. Oh, you don't. And it goes even beyond business. And you know what? I think that that plays a role. I think that even outside of business, the imposter syndrome I mean, all of that, it bleeds into every area of our life, doesn't it? Where we find ourselves, if we're second guessing, it just becomes this routine. Like the way you live your life outside of business, you just carry that right on into work. And and so when you are in this constant state of looking at everybody else, there's no room for you to see you because you don't see yourself on there. All you see is everybody else, and you don't see their story. You don't see what they've gone through to get there. You don't see if they actually are an imposter. They're not even real. Well, whether you don't even know. You don't even know if it's AI. Like you don't know any of those things.
Now
But yeah,
you definitely don't know now. As good as things have gotten, it's like
right.
yeah, totally. I was just going to add on to where you said that you don't know the person's story, right? We No matter how many times you can tell somebody, we're always going to look at that person and compare us to where they are today, right? Because that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
But what we don't step back and realize is that person may be at level 35 and we're at level 5. Like, don't try to jump 30 levels because you're never going to succeed. There's those 30 levels that person had to go through to get where they are beyond you. And they started at level 5. They started at level 1. We all start at nothing at some point. Someone doesn't just hand you, I mean, I don't know, maybe there is somewhere, but not to me. But someone doesn't just hand you a full-blown, fully built business with confidence, equipped with confidence, right? And courage. Like, this is stuff you have to build, and this is stuff that you have to go through the experiences of, and not compare your level 1 or your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 35 or chapter 100, because they've got their stuff together. They've got, they're making all this money. They have all these perfect clients and they're being able to raise their rates and this, that, and another. And they know all these technical things. And you're like, oh, well, I know this, okay. And that person at one point only knew that too. And you have to have the courage.
Mhm.
Then comes the confidence in knowing that you know what you're doing and you just have to take that leap and move forward and start doing it and stop telling yourself that you're not good enough.
Yeah. 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 So how do we move forward from here? Like when we're stuck in imposter syndrome, besides stopping the scroll, like putting away our phones and not looking at everybody else, like how how does someone move forward?
What helped me move forward, past that was, paying attention to what energized me versus drained me. Right. So and I think that really hit when, you said you're already an OBM, and I realized, okay, well, I already have those skill sets. I've been doing this the whole time. I don't need to learn anymore. I've been doing this for years. And then once I realized, wait, I've been an OBM. I know what I'm doing. And it was like all of a sudden I got like this fire under me and I got very excited about doing that and actually, nailing down that specialization of being an OBM versus a catch-all VA. And then I started realizing being that catch-all is really draining sometimes. It's like
Mm,
I don't want to pivot to here, there, and everywhere, or not even just having this whole pile of everything that you do. I really found that I got really excited about the systems and the organization and really helping someone else build something strong that's going to sustain and have the ability to grow beyond where it is today. And so I feel like that helped me in my situation accept and move past that imposter syndrome into the pivot that inevitably should have happened a long time ago.
yeah. Yeah. And I think trusting the clients that you've had, right? Trusting the experience that you have had with your clients to help also give you that courage, right? Because if we're talking about being in business for a
Yeah.
while and making that transition and then imposter syndrome just inevitably setting in, reminding ourselves that, and sometimes we need a lot of reminders, like, okay, you know what? Wait, I started this business. I started this business from nothing, and now look where we are today. So that should remind me that I am capable, and that it's not about everybody else for proof, but we actually might have a little bit of proof that we might be able to fall back on ourselves just from the experience that we've had to give us that reassurance that we can do this, we can make these changes, and we can adapt in such an environment of change when it comes to the online world. It's just so like there's changes every single day, you know and whether it's the
Hmm.
platforms or it's the expectations the clients have or the transitions they're making in their business, because we're businesses helping businesses, right? And so they're making
Right.
changes and having to adapt to what changes they're making. Like, no, we're capable. We're more than capable, right?
Hmm.
And like we
Hmm.
always say, like, look, if I don't know it, I can learn it, right? So also recognizing that there is something where you may feel a little lost in, there's always opportunity. But like we talked about earlier before we started this episode about like not staying stuck in the learning phase, right? Remember when you were talking about that, like how we would just stay in that learning space and in that, like, no, I still need to learn more. Remember you were saying that?
Yeah, the procrastination. I mean, that's really what it is. It's, you're dragging your feet to keep from making that move because you don't have the confidence in that that's the right decision. And that's how we hide behind that. And I am 100% guilty of that. You know how many courses I've purchased? I've invested so much into my business and myself. And, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the reason why I became a catch-all is because I like to learn. But I have realized that yes, it is okay to learn new things. It's okay to want to invest in yourself. We're always learning, right? We always stay the student. And I mean, I don't know, I'm a former teacher. So, at some point we are teachers too, but we always stay in the learning. We're always evolving. However, at some point, we have to grow from that, right? You can't constantly just stay there and say, oh, I need to learn a little bit more. I need a little. Yes, it's great to continue to learn, but you don't need to stay in that season. You need to move and take what you've already got and start implementing, because you won't know what else you're missing until you start implementing what you already have.
Mhm.
And so if you want to stay stagnant and you don't want to grow or go anywhere, then sure, stay in that learning phase, but like you had made a comment of, some point you got to graduate, right? I just had our fourth one graduated yesterday, so it's kind of like, that's where that's where you have to really take that, is it's okay to learn and, and educate yourself and grow, because our minds just evolve that way. But at some point you've got to take what you already know, move forward, and then if you have to learn a little bit more to continue to grow and move forward, then you learn in that stage and then you move forward. Like, our business are like constantly evolving, right? You have your learning stage or your building stage, your growth stage, and then your what is the other one?
So
I know there's like three though. Like we learn or build, grow, and then we're sustaining. I don't know. Anyway,
I would say pivot and then learn again.
right. We pivot to some extent. It's either, I don't know, maybe at that stage. I mean, I don't know how many times I pivoted, throughout the last 5 years of my business,
Mhm.
and I don't realize that that's exactly what that was, because we pivot in different ways. We could pivot by our clientele. We could
Mhm.
pivot by our pricing. We could pivot by our actual specialty of what we do, or maybe we add in a new skill, or a new offer, whatever. That's still a form of pivoting. However, we still, that is by continuing to say, oh, I need to learn a little bit more. That is a form of procrastination. It is imposter syndrome, and you gotta just let it go.
That's right.
Graduate.
Yeah, and you know what? You can refine as you go. Like
Mm-hmm.
those that are following along with us on this journey with building out our podcast, that's what happens. I create the concept, you grow, and you move forward. Like pivoting from different platforms. Like there's so many different things that you can do, but do it while you're walking forward, while you're moving forward. Not saying like you're
Yeah.
saying like staying stuck, like, and giving excuse for, well, I should finish the entire course before I get started. Well, maybe I should take, they said there was a second course that I should take. Let me take that just in case. And you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It's always going to be something. So definitely while you're moving forward, making those adjustments as you go. And like that was one of the things that I did, was like, understanding that those conversations that I was having with those clients was naturally going to consulting. It was. So then
Yeah.
I remember when we had that conversation and you were like, well, you're going to talk to her about that, right? When you get on the call with her, like she could be your first consulting client. And you're absolutely right. She could be,
Yeah.
because that's what I'm doing. That's what she's asking me for, right? And so you'll find that you may end up in situations where you may naturally be, providing that kind of service before you even update anything else on the back end or in your business. Just take the leap, take that leap of faith, that God will catch you. And that's okay. And also that imposter syndrome is, don't feel guilty about it, right? We all experience having imposter syndrome at any given moment in our
Yes.
business, in life, but not staying stuck in it. It's like recognizing, like, this is what it is. Okay, I need to stop watching the videos. I need to start doing the thing. I need to stop watching other people do the thing that I'm supposed to do. I'm talking to myself right now, and I need to do the thing, right? And that's what will get you out of that imposter syndrome, and then you get you that quick win. It's like, oh yeah, I got this. So I would like to extend this to our listeners. So what is one thing that you're doubting in your business? What is one thing that you're doubting and that you keep doubting? Is it imposter syndrome? I want you to drop your comments down below, and let's discuss it. Let's keep the conversation going there. And if you like this video, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe if you want to hear more. And we will see you in the next episode.